Joining us right now on Can I Media, Dominic Thasarathar with Autodesk.
That's right.
And you're talking about the future, what the future might hold for not only the world, but the oil and gas industry and some of the challenges it might face.
Certainly, yeah. And the oil and gas industry has an amazing future ahead of it, but an incredible challenge, particularly from the perspective that we're interested in the amount of infrastructure that needs to be built, everything from offshore platforms through pipelines, through oil refineries, etc., over the next 20 years as growth in the global economy and global population really increases the amount of hydrocarbon usage over the next 20 plus years.
Right. Well, and that's a fascinating thing. It's not just how can they sell more, it's how can they get the product to the market, how can they get it out of the ground as well.
Exactly, and especially when you consider that much of the growth economically and from a population perspective is coming in non-traditional markets for many of the major international firms and many of the traditional oil and gas firms. So having to create that infrastructure perhaps in countries where they haven't done before, and increasing volume in countries they haven't done before, and an increasing amount of infrastructure.
Do you find that the industry is prepared to move forward?
I think the oil and gas industry has always been an incredibly innovative industry, and I think one of the things it has done is always latch on to developments in technology. You know, they've pioneered so many firsts, and I think one of the things that we're excited about is how particularly computing and digital technology and things like the power of cloud computing, the power of the crowd, social media and connectivity can really help them chew up this incredibly large challenge that they have ahead of them.
It's interesting how you say it can help, because it's also proving to be a bit of a hindrance to a certain degree when it comes to getting messages out about the environment and sustainability, and it seems to be slowing down the process to a certain degree because more people are vocalizing their opposition, I guess, to things like the Keystone XL pipeline and the Northern Gateway pipeline.
I think those aren't particular projects that I'm familiar with,
okay.
But certainly the notion of their increasing awareness of environmental requirements in the oil and gas sector. And I think one of the advantages of what, for example, digital modelling technology can do is certainly make it, make it more visible about what the issues are from a design perspective when dealing with the environment and dealing with assets that sit in that environment. But ultimately those are decisions and issues that are much bigger than technology. Those are ones that sit with the oil and gas companies themselves. Yeah.
When you look at it, what are some of the trends that you see happening?
I think some of the big trends that we're seeing that will impact the way the oil and gas industry, particularly designs and constructs facilities, are certainly the notion of the cloud. So being able to tap into this theoretical notion of unlimited computing power and accessing information anywhere, anyhow, on any device, whether it's a desktop machine, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's your tablet, computer, whatever it might be. That's really being able to put information into the hands of any worker wherever they are. I think that's one really interesting thing. I think the social aspect as well, so social collaboration. So of course social networking is a really big thing, particularly with the younger generation who ultimately are the new lifeblood for the industry. The way in which they collaborate around problems, I think, is going to really benefit the industry going forwards, yeah. And some of the trends, perhaps more out there around realisation, how you go from a design into a physically finished asset. So you're probably aware of some of the news items around 3D printing and technologies like that. I think those are just three of the quite exciting trends that we're seeing.
Well, and the latter is something that would, I guess, help get the product to market faster, or build a refinery faster perhaps, because the development phase, from what you said, sounds like it could be sped up considerably from where it's been before.
Yeah, I think a model-based approach to design of assets certainly helps to improve productivity, improve predictability of outcome, and generally helps to bring a project in quicker, yeah, and for a lower cost. I think ultimately the construction of that asset is then made easier if you've got the design right first time, as it were, by modelling it in the digital world before rushing out into the real world and actually going and doing physical construction work.
Right. You mentioned the challenges, getting the resource out, the infrastructure, but also skills. It's difficult to find skilled personnel today. How is that going to change by 2030?
That's a real tough challenge. I think the 2030 notion is you've got to look to the new generation, particularly the millennial generation. So that generation that's kind of born around sort of 1998 onwards, that have grown up knowing nothing but the digital environment. The older ones of whom are now beginning to enter the industry as apprentices or will do shortly. They, I think, are going to be the lifeblood of the industry going forwards, because one of the challenges, as you rightly said, the industry has today is it's got quite an ageing population profile. And traditionally, sometimes it was seen as a bit of a sunset industry from a career choice. So the younger generation weren't necessarily as excited about working in oil and gas as perhaps now they are, when they're starting to see some of the technology and some of the options, which is more aligned with what they're used to doing in their free time, as it were.
Dominic, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.